Hi, I'm Emily Fries, and for my research project, my topic was about brain breaks and how they can help restore students' focus and help them succeed academically. So, for this little podcast, I'm going to mainly focus on how the brain takes new information and stores it as a memory, and then how brain breaks can help the brain do that effectively and more efficiently. So, to get started, what are brain breaks? So, in order for students to learn at their highest potential, their brain needs to send signals efficiently from the sensory receptors. So, like what they hear, see, read, touch, experience, stuff like that, to memory storage regions of the brain. So, the brain breaks then are planned learning activities that mobilize different networks of the brain. So, by doing this, these shifts allow those regions that are blocked by stress or high intense work, like constant note taking or doing the same thing over and over again, to revitalize. So, the brain breaks when they switch activities to a different brain network allow the resting pathways to restore their calm focus and then foster the optimal mood, attention, and memory that's needed to store that new information. So, the neuroscience of the brain breaks, for new information to become a memory, it first has to pass through an emotional filter, and this is called the amygdala. This is a part of the brain. So once it then reaches the amygdala, then it's passed along to the prefrontal cortex. So when a student's brain, when they become like anxious or overwhelmed or even confused at something that they're doing, this emotional filter, the amygdala, it almost acts as if it's like a stop sign. So there's no new learning that's taking place. And it's not being passed, the new information isn't being passed from this amygdala to the prefrontal cortex to be kept as a new memory. So those types of things can inhibit that from happening, like being stressed or confused or overwhelmed. But even if they don't have these, for say, symptoms, there's just a point when the amygdala exceeds its highest capacity, and it just essentially needs a break. So when that happens, that's why brain breaks can be very effective. So they can be planned to restore the emotional state of the student that's needed to return the amygdala from its overdrive and overworking into its optimal state, so that it's able then to receive that information and pass it on to the prefrontal cortex. So brain breaks also restore brain supplies. So there are brain chemicals that carry messages from one nerve cell to the next across gaps in our brain between the cells that are called synapses. And these brain chemicals are neurotransmitters. So these message carriers, they're necessary to keep one's calm, focused attention and maintenance of a new memory. So these neurotransmitters are in limited supply in each synapse. So there's only so many per pathway, essentially, and they can easily deplete in as little as even 10 minutes of doing the same activity or learning. So if a student has to be attentively listening for a long period of time, or in phys ed, if they're doing the same thing over and over again, like a drill, or if they're just taking notes for 40 minutes, stuff like that, these neurotransmitters basically get like tired and aren't as effective in carrying those messages. So the brain break then, by switching the type of mental activity that the student is doing, so if they were taking notes, and then maybe you take a break to do 5 minutes of stretching. Their brain, that shift of brain communication to networks with fresh supplies of neurotransmitters is what's going to be effective. So this intermission allows for the brain chemicals to replenish while different pathways are being worked. They can get up to speed on what they need to do while they're resting, and then you can go back and switch to do whatever you're doing, and the student's going to be more effective in their learning and taking in information and stuff like that. So that is also the mood is something that you want to take into account. So to restore the emotional state that's needed to bring the amygdala back from overdrive, it can help the students build habits of emotional self-awareness and mindfulness. So you can help them as a teacher or educator prepare them for successful self-calming brain breaks, even just like mindful breathing, maybe some yoga, stretching, stuff like that, where they can give that amygdala a break and go on from there. But thank you for listening, and I hope that you learned something. Thanks.